Assalamualaikum. This is Anika from class 7. Today our topic is reproduction in plants. First of all, I would like to call Zani bin Hania for explain their topic that what is reproduction and how many kinds of reproductions are there. Assalamualaikum. My name is Zanufri from level 7. Today my topic is reproduction. First of all, I want to tell you what's meant by reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce more organisms like themselves. Kinds of reproduction. There are two kinds of reproduction: asexual, sexual reproduction. Asexual reproduction in one parents are involved. Sexual reproduction. In sexual reproduction, two parents are involved. Thanks.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Hania from level 7. Today I'm going to tell you about reproduction. Reproduction is a process by which an organism produces more organisms like themselves. There are two types of reproduction: asexual and sexual reproduction. Asexual. In asexual reproduction, one parent is involved, and in sexual reproduction, two parents are involved, and it occurs in plants, not in humans.
Thanks.
Thanks.
I hope you understand the topic delivered by Zaniban Hania. You understand? Yes. So I would like to call Shanze now.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Chandra from level 7. Today I am going to present parts of flower. Most flower have four main parts: sepals, petals, stamens, and carpel. First of all, sepals. Green sepals protect the flower. Petals. The colored petals attract the insects.
Now I'm going to tell you that what is carpel and what is stamen. Stamen is the male part of a flower and carpel is the female part of a flower. Stamen parts are anther and filament, and carpel parts are stigma, style, ovary, and ovules. Have you seen a flower?
Yes.
In flower, you see that in the middle of flower there are some grains. Those grains are called pollen grains. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Thank you. Do you understand the topic?
Yes.
So now I would like to call Faiza and Myra Rizwan for their topic that what is pollination and how many kinds of pollination.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Myra Irfan from level 6. Today I am going to present my topic pollination. First of all, I will tell you what is pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a carpel is called pollination. There are two kinds of pollination. First, self-pollination. Second, cross-pollination. Self-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from one anther to the stigma of a same plant or another flower on a same plant is called self-pollination. Second, cross-pollination. The transfer of pollen grain from the anther of a flower to the stigma of an anther plant, the same kind, is called cross-pollination. Example of self-pollination: pea, rice, potato, etc. And example of cross-pollination: papaya tree, apple, etc. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum, this is Fazanur. Today I am going to tell you about what is pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of the flower to the stigma of the flower is called pollination. There are two kinds of pollination. Firstly, self-pollination and secondly is cross-pollination. Firstly, self-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the same plant is called self-pollination. Secondly, cross-pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from another plant is called cross-pollination. The example of self-pollination is called pea, potato, etc. And an example of cross-pollination is apple, papaya tree, etc. Thanks. Do you understand the topic delivered by Maida and Faiza?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I would like to call Fiza and Dua for explain their topic that what are the agents of pollination, main pollinators.
Assalamualaikum. My name is Dwaizara from level 7. Today I am going to tell you about agents of pollination. First of all, I will tell you pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the carpel is called pollination. Agents of pollination. The agents of pollination that carry pollen grains of the anther of a flower to the stigma is called pollinators. For example, wind, birds, insects. bats are few agents. There are three types of pollination: pollination by wind, pollination by animals, pollination by water. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. This is Fizza Afzal and today I am going to define kinds of pollinators. There are three types of pollinators called pollination by wind, pollination by water and pollination by animals. First of all, I am going to define pollination by wind. Now I am going to define pollination by water. Mostly frogs release their pollen grains into water. Water carries pollen grains slowly. Vaselineria and water lily are some aquatic plants.
Do you understand the topic delivered by Dua and Fiza?
Yes.
Good. Now I'm going to review the all topics. First is reproduction. Reproduction is the process by which living organisms produce more organisms like themselves. Second is pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Now there are parts of flowers. Most flowers have parts: sepals, petals, stamen, and carpel. Petals are colorful in color, and petals attract the insects to themselves. Sepal protect the green sepal protect the flower. Stamen is the male part of a flower. In stamen there are four parts. There are two parts: anther and filament. And in carpel there are four parts: stigma, style, ovary, ovules. And now there are kind of reproduction. As you know that the transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma is called pollination. Now there are kinds of pollination. The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of the flower of the same flower or another flower on the same plant is called self-pollination. And the transfer of pollen grain from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower and other plant of the same kind is called cross-pollination. And the agents of pollination are wind, insects, animals, bats, etc. Now, have you any question?
Yes.
Okay.
What are pollinators?
The agents that carry pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma in pollination are called pollinators. Now, have you any question? Yes, Aisha.
What is the color of petal?
Petals are colorful in color. And anyone else?
What is the color of sepals?
Sepals are green in color. Anyone else? Yes.
Stamen is male part or female part?
Stamen is male part, consists of anther and filament. Anyone else? Yes, Hira.
What is reproduction?
Reproduction is the process by which organisms produce more organisms like themselves. Have you any question?
What are the kinds of pollination?
There are two kinds of pollination: cross-pollination and self-pollination. Anyone else? Yes, Hanya.
Carpel is male or female part?
Carpel is female part consisting of stigma, styles, ovary and ovules. Maida.
Name the part of carpel.
Stigma, style, ovary and ovules. Anyone else? Yes, Faiza.
What is the second name of agent of pollination?
The agents of pollination are called pollinators. Anyone else? Tell me the example of
Cross-pollination.
papaya and apple. Yes, Arisha.
Tell me the example of self-pollination.
Peas and tomato. Anyone else? Yes, Fiza.
Can you explain pollination again?
The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of a flower to the stigma of a flower is called pollination. Anyone else? Nobody? No. Yes, Aisha.
What are the function of green sepals?
Green sepals protect the flower. Have you cleared that topic?
Yes.
Do you understand the topic?
Yes.
Can you ask questions?
Yes.
Okay. Can anybody tell me that what is self-pollination? Yes, Abiha.
The transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma of the same flower or another flower on the same plant is called self-pollination. For example, pea, rice, etc.
Clap for Abiha.
Okay, now can anybody tell me that what is cross pollination? Yes, Arisha. The transfer of pollen grains from the end other of a flower to the stigma of a flower and other plant of the same kinds is called cross pollination. For example, apple and papaya. Clap for Arisha. Now, can anybody tell me that what is reproduction? Yes, Shanse.
Reproduction is the process by which organisms produce more organisms like themselves.
Clap for Shanse. Okay. Can anybody tell me that what is the color of petal? Yes, Faiza. Petals are colorful in colors. Very good. Clap for Faiza. Now, can anybody tell me that what is the color of sepal? Yes, Hira.
Green.
Very good. Clap for Hira. Okay. Now tell me that carpel is a female part or male part? Yes, Zainab. Carpel is the female part of a flower. Very good. Clap for Zainab. Okay, now can anybody tell me that what is pollination? Yes, Umirman.
The transfer of pollen grains from the anther of flower to the stigma of carpel is called pollination.
Very good. Clap for Umirman. Okay. Now tell me that what is the stamen is the male part or female part? Stand up, Noor Fatma.
Stamen is the male part.
Very good. Clap for Noor Fatma. Name the sticky part of a flower. Yes, Ikra. Stigma. Very good. Clap for Ikra. Can anybody tell me the kinds of reproduction? Yes, Hania.
There are two types of reproduction, sexual and asexual.
Very good. Clap for Hania. Now, anybody tell me that how many types of pollination? Yes, Mahnur.
There are two kinds of pollination, self-pollination and cross-pollination.
Very good. Clap for Mahnur. Now, can anybody tell me the examples of self-pollination?
Tomato, rice, etc.
Very good. Clap for Numana. Now, can anybody tell me the examples of cross-pollination? Yes, Zaniba, say.
Apple and papaya.
It's right? Yes. Very good. Clap for Zaniba, say. I hope that you understand all the topics.
Yes.
Now we will meet you again with another activity. Thank you, students. Have a nice day.